Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coddington, joined my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
I'm just going to say right off the bat, hot take, Monkeybone is my favorite Tim Burton movie.
Oh, I saw that one coming, not just because John said it before we started recording, but
I'm
because...
sorry, Henry, I kid.
We kid.
My actual favorite Tim Burton movie is James and the Giant Peach.
Oh, there you go. Well, this is going to be a very fun episode. So this week we are talking about a movie that I think falls through the cracks a lot of times when people are talking about weird, dark films. Everyone goes to Coraline, Edward Scissorhands, James and the Giant Peach, as John just mentioned. They always go to those weird, dark films. But this one,
Brian,
always is
Brian,
kind of... Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you said Edward Scissorhands. I think you mean Nightmare Before Christmas.
No, I meant Edward Scissorhands because it's a weird, dark film.
Oh, well, I thought you were talking about Henry Selick.
I'm talking about weird, dark films.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You just ruined my whole thing, John.
Yeah,
and I'm going to keep this in. I'm not going to cut it at all. Just for the audience to know.
Is raw,
this is what happened. This is
raw,
live,
baby.
No, it's not live. Okay. But anyway, what I was saying before John rudely interrupted me was that this movie, Monkeybone from 2001, always seems to get looked over when it comes to talking about weird, dark films. And when we're talking about weird, dark films, there's really no one that I can think of better equipped to talk about weirdness and darkness, and also this very fun, goofy weirdness and darkness that happens in Monkeybone. And that is our very good friend, constant collaborator on the podcast, is back with us today, Anastasia Elfman. How you doing, Anastasia?
Oh my goodness, I'm doing so great. What a wonderful intro. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you.
It came off the top of my head.
It was so
this
beautiful.
Is the benefit.
I want that on my gravestone.
This is the benefit of us recording at 9:30 at night rather than at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's the benefit there. But yeah, Anastasia had I sent at the beginning of the year, I always constant guests that we have on, I try to send them kind of a list of movies. And I obviously beginning of the year, I sent Anastasia kind of an email like, hey, do you want to come on? And she had mentioned about wanting to do Monkeybone. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, we'll do that. That's right up your alley. Obviously stuff happened. I mean, Anastasia, you're working on a movie, right?
Okay, you want to get real, Brian?
Yeah, I want to get real.
What really happened was that you sent me the list and I said, fuck your list. We're doing Monkeybone.
Oh, fair enough.
That's what I said.
Fair enough.
I said, cool. Forget about the list. Devote the whole
I was trying to be nice.
Monkeybone.
I mean, I can make the whole podcast Monkeybone all the time. But yeah, I mean, you were busy doing a movie, right? Around the time.
I guess.
You said you were working on a movie.
I mean, I can't remember what I had for breakfast. So, I mean, the chances are pretty high that I was doing something related to film.
Fair enough. And then
Miss Elfman is being coquettish with us.
Fair enough. You were doing something with film. Well, I know there also was stuff happening with the whole fires out in the West, and I hope everything is good.
I know. I was looking back because we were talking about the episode today, and I was like, I know I said something. And so I was looking for receipts. I was like, oh, crap, the fire happened. Let's go back further.
Yeah, I was worried about you because, the minute I looked on the news and they were like, oh, yes, there are now fires in the Hollywood Hills where the Hollywood sign is. And I'm like,
I was
is
worried
Anastasia
about me
and
too.
Richard okay? I'm like, are they okay?
I was worried about me too. Don't worry.
Well, I hope you were worried about you, but
it was pretty crazy because you know what was happening too. Besides finding out that there was a fire on the other side of our Hollywood Hills, which never happens. I mean, maybe micro fires that they put out in an instant. But I've lived here for 15 years and Rick for 25 or more. And he said that he's never experienced a fire like this. So we were getting it from all sides. There was a Runyon fire that was a mile away, which sounds like a big distance, but it really isn't in, in a city. And then there was one behind our hill. And so it was difficult because we were getting all this misinformation with people sharing AI photos of literally the Hollywood sign on fire, which I live underneath.
Yeah.
And so it was crazy. But yeah, we're fine. We're fine.
I'm glad you're fine. I'm glad everything is okay. Glad to have you back on. But, you mentioned you want to talk about Monkeybone, and we're down for it. Little bit about this. This movie, I like to say it's kind of a cross between Cool World, A Nightmare Before Christmas, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I think
Wouldn't
that's fair.
that agree? Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, that's really fair.
More Cool World than anything, I think.
And Brian, I just feel that for those that are not into like underground comics turn film, like that niche, like Fritz the Cat, like I feel a lot of people skipped Cool World, but it's definitely worth a look, if nothing else for the visuals more than anything else. It has a very young Brad Pitt, Kim Basinger. But yeah, it's about like human beings that can go into a cartoon world. It's very adult based. Don't show it to your kids.
No.
But I just
unless you were me at the time it came out, because I absolutely did watch it when I was a kid.
Yeah,
probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, I mean, a cartoon Kim Basinger like introduced me to things in my life.
A cartoon. Listen. If we had to track where my Monkeybone originated from, it was cartoon Kim Basinger and Catwoman from Batman Returns. Yeah, those two.
But yeah, so for those that have never seen it, if you don't want to watch it, for context, pause the episode right now. Don't leave us. But then watch the trailer on YouTube, because Brian hit the nail right on the head. But yeah.
I mean, but maybe leave us because you haven't seen Cool World. I don't know. Like, what?
No, don't leave us. We don't want them to leave.
Oh, sorry. I get confrontational. Sorry.
It's okay. It's cool. But this movie, based off of a graphic novel, which I want to go read the graphic novel now, called Darktown, and apparently Henry Selick had got a hold of this graphic novel and was so like enamored by it that he wanted to move heaven and earth to try to make this movie, and eventually it became Monkeybone, and it's the first and only live action movie that Henry Selick has made. Henry Selick, of course, most famous for quite literally, the movie Coraline, Nightmare Before Christmas, James and the Giant Peach. So many awesome stop motion animation films that really, like, I know for pretty much anyone who was a goth kid in the 90s and 2000s, you loved Henry Selick's work. And as John kind of mentioned at the top of the show, often gets mistaken for being Tim Burton as well.
Well, Brian, when I Googled this movie, you know what? I hate giving so much credit to Google. I'm going to lie and say, when I binged this movie.
When you asked Jeeves the movie.
When I asked Jeeves, when I web crawlered this movie.
When you went to the library.
The card catalog. No, one of the first things that came up was, is Monkeybone a Tim Burton movie?
Of course it did.
Like one of the drop down questions, and like there is something to be said about, there's a reason that Henry Selick was picked, because Tim Burton had to drop out of directing Nightmare Before Christmas to work on Batman Returns because he was contractually obligated. There's a reason they picked Henry Selick. The two have very similar artistic styles. Not exactly the same, but very similar. But one thing that you mentioned in my research that I found is that this film is, shall we say, loosely based on the graphic novel. And that happens so much with like studio interference. I've always said that I would love a Mask remake, because the movie The Mask with Jim Carrey has little to do to almost nothing with the adult themed graphic novel The Mask, and I would like to see an honest, accurate representation of the graphic novel on film, not like a remake of the Jim Carrey film, because the studio got a hold of it and went, wait, we could have Jim Carrey do a bunch of goofy faces and be silly and fart and all that nonsense, and we could make $1 quadrillion. And they made $1 quadrillion, but I would like to see an honest adaptation of that, and I'd like to see an honest adaptation of this, even though I've never read it. I don't know anything about it.
The Mask comic book is extremely violent and really insane. So I'm all for that. But you know, I know for me at least, like I would love to explore more of Darktown, because I think that this movie, one of the points that I really think that should have been improved is that we spend more time in, you know, downtown and Land of Death and all the places that Darktown takes place in.
Anastasia, I'm sorry. I feel like I need to respond. I will let you speak in a second.
It's okay. I know. I'm a woman. Yeah. I know my place.
Yeah. Quiet, little lady.
I know.
The men are talking now. No, just kidding. But no, yeah, I felt the first half of this movie had a very comfortable grasp of like, here is this world, and you're about to get tired of it. We go back to the real world. You know, back to Bridgette Fonda looking over Brendan Fraser and, you know, the in his coma, because we need a break. And then we go back to it and we get enough again before we need a break. But I feel that once Monkeybone steals Brendan Fraser's body, I think that's when, like, it stops getting as much fun, because we don't really have, you know, the balance. It would be like if Jurassic Park took a 25-minute break without dinosaurs. It would be like if The Dark Knight Rises didn't have Batman until the 30-minute mark. Sorry. But yeah, anyways, that's my thought. Yeah.
Anastasia, you got thoughts on that?
Well, on specifically that? Well, I don't know. That's an interesting point, I guess. I mean, I would have liked more Chris Kattan, if I'm honest.
Highlight of the movie.
Right?
Highlight
like,
of the movie.
Why did we wait until like the last third of the film to introduce Chris Kattan? I would have liked a lot more of that dynamic happening, because I think it's just so brilliant how he totally he's doing like a Brendan Fraser impersonation. You know what I mean? Like the voice.
Yes, his Brendan Fraser impersonation is 1,000 times better than
Brendan Fraser being him.
Well, I was going to say Brendan Fraser doing a high-pitched John Tutoro voice. That's what I would say. I think that Brendan Fraser's Monkeybone version is really substandard compared to like what Chris Kattan's able to do being Brendan Fraser. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I feel like the last, like, I would say last half or last third of the film is like when it really gets funny. Like all of a sudden we shift gears, and then we've got like Bob Odenkirk trying to get his organs back, and I'm like, oh my God. Well, like I could have watched a whole film of just that.
Oh my God. Well, there's
just
some...
like chasing Kattan around town.
Yeah,
you know?
There are some
so
really
good.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Bob Odenkirk. There are some really strange connections in this movie. Like some really bizarro connections to other films and TV shows in particular. And one TV show in particular that I thought was strange. I was like, watching the credits, I'm like, well, this is kind of weird. Why is this person? Is that this movie has a lot of connections to Breaking Bad.
Yes.
Like Bob Odenkirk obviously being one, Saul Goodman. He's what I called him in the notes here as the organ crazy doctor, because all this man wants is just to get as many organs from Chris Kattan as possible to buy a new like Rolls Royce or, you know, yacht or something like that.
Little Betty Sue Rottencrotch needs her liver, you know?
Oh, sure. It's just for Betty Sue Rottencrotch.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then on top of that, like I almost like is he just really want to be the villain in all this? But Giancarlo Esposito, what was that?
Incorrect.
Giancarlo Esposito.
That is actually how he pronounces it.
Okay. Well, then I'm an asshole. Sorry.
No. Like most people call him exactly. I'd say 99% of people call him that. But I heard an interview with him. He said, "Hello, my name is Giancarlo Esposito," and I'm like, "Okay, that's how we're supposed to pronounce it."
Okay. But anyway, Giancarlo Esposito, also known as Gus Fring, greatest villain in any TV series, honestly, in my opinion. I think he's one of the best.
Yes.
But he's Hypno, the god of dreams in this.
He's so young, too.
He's so young, and he is horny for everything in downtown. He heard that, hey, horny goat weed does stuff to you, and he's like, yeah, well, I'm gonna take all of it because I'm half goat.
Okay, did you guys do any like deep diving into his experience filming and how intense it was for him to
No.
do this character, and how basically he had to perform on his knees, and it was green screened out, and so he had the goat legs in front of him, and he had such a tough time filming all of his parts.
I can't even fucking imagine.
I mean, I figured that there were
must've
parts where he was like, because I think when like the bed, it looked like he almost was like in the bed, and then they had like the whole like top with the leggies, like that sort of
I
thing.
feel like that was probably the most comfortable
Yeah.
out of all of the versions of that character, but he literally had to make like these foam like knee protectors, and so he was just like crawling on his knees throughout that all of his scenes, which
That's
reminds me
horrible.
of another favorite performance, Lon Chaney Sr. in another film called The Penalty.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I always try to bring it back to him. And that's how I bring it back.
There you go.
Go into our archives on our Lon Chaney Sr. episode.
Yes.
With Anastasia.
The last time we had her on, we would talk deeply about Lon Chaney Sr. But no, I had no idea that it was that pain. I mean, I figured that they had done some green screen and that they had done something with his legs, because that's, this is 2001 when this came out. So that technology was obviously there. But yeah, man, especially like on the dance floor, like that hard dance floor, that it would hurt.
Yeah, apparently it was brutal for him, and he said that he had to take long breaks in between each scene, each take basically, and he would have to take breaks. So very interesting,
Crazy.
Yeah, but a trooper.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely sells it. I mean, like I almost think like these sort of characters kind of pave the way for him to kind of take the aspects of it, even though like obviously Hypno is kind of a bombastic kind of crazy type of villain. You take elements of that into every other role that you do as an actor. So I imagine that there were parts from this experience of being Hypno that did kind of show up later when he became Gus Fring. But I definitely loved his performance in this. So even if it was painful, from my standpoint, I thought he was one of the highlights of this movie.
Which is like, he's kind of like planted as a twist villain, but it's like looking at him and I'm like, he's got
a red,
evil
horny
intentions.
So it's like, you're going to tell me he's not the villain? Like, of course he is.
Yeah, I feel like of all of the things, I saw that one coming.
Yeah.
Not in the same way, but I feel like a film like this has to be so difficult on everybody on set, because you're dealing with so much special effects compositing. Brian, you had mentioned Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and that was at the birth of this kind of thing.
This sort of integration type, yes, that was very much it.
And you see like Bob, what's his name? The star of the movie, who's not
Bob
Roger.
Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins, thank you. Yeah. Sorry, blanked for a second. Like, and he's like, so Roger's gonna be up here talking to Robert Zemeckis, and I have to like have my eyes here. Even though we've improved a lot of that stuff by 2001, like it's got to be so hard for Brendan Fraser to know I got to turn my head here, and then the monkey's going to be here. I got to, look over here. I got to do this precise thing so the animators can do their thing, and then there's going to be a stop motion effect over here that we haven't done yet, but it's going to be in post production. So you have to make sure you follow the ping pong ball, that kind of stuff. Like this movie had to be taxing on a lot of people. It speaks a lot to this kind of like very super creative type of film, but it's not an easy shoot. This isn't My Dinner with Andre,
right?
So.
It's almost one of the things where like the days when they were like, hey, yeah, this is gonna be a museum scene. This is gonna be us at Stu's house. Oh,
George Lucas
God.
Style.
Yeah. Thank God. It's like, thank God those days are there.
Yeah.
Because having a giant cyclops look at you during craft services time. It's not always fun.
Well, if you look back on Brendan's, like, I think what he did before was like The Mummy.
Yep.
And he was so great at his pantomiming and knowing it, like, because I just deep dived this film, so it's like very fresh in my head, where he's doing all of these action scenes with nothing there, and he's supposed to be fighting these mummies that they put in later with CGI.
Yep.
But it's like seamless, so he's great. I don't know if he has a dance background or what, but he can hold different cues, and he's just a great like physical comedian and able to like hone in with these very specific notes, which I imagine with when you're dealing with animation and you're dealing with like these different like green screen, like you were saying, with the props and stuff.
Yeah.
That you have to be ultra specific.
The one cool thing though, and this is one thing to point out, is even though this movie does have a ton of CGI and visual effects and things that you wouldn't have to act with, one of the things, and I know we're going to get to this when we get to the actual breakdown of this movie, that I just upon rewatching it really loved was the amount of practical effects that were present. And we're talking like real sets, real costume, real animatronics, real just pure creativity. I know that some
real
people
motion,
who have
Brian,
what was that?
Real stop motion.
Oh well, yeah, real stop motion. But obviously, like that's something that an actor would have to react against. But what I mean is just like when Stu walks into downtown for the first time and he's basically hit with this nightmarish, vomitous type of crazy that really you don't see anywhere anymore. Like there's no way in hell you would see this sort of world anywhere outside of maybe like Guillermo del Toro. He's the only one who I think has the clout to be able to pull something like this nowadays. But like in 2001, I argue that this is probably like the last like really like heavily film out there to this level. Like maybe like Hellboy and the Golden Army might be another one, but like I just was blown away by the amount of practical effects. Like you have Lisa Zane, who I know her from John, you'll laugh at this one, but Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. That's where I know her from, but a lot of people know her from other things. But she's Medusa, and she's got practical snakes that are singing with her, like they're puppeted snakes. You can see that, and you don't see that anymore.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about trusting a director, to make a world like that. You don't see that anymore. And like, look, I got nothing against the Wachowskis, but I think that I remember reading right before the second Matrix movie came out, a Newsweek article being like, oh, things that we could have never imagined in film possible now is going to be in the Matrix Reloaded, or is it Reloaded or Evolution?
It was going to be well
the sequel, the second one.
The second one was Reloaded.
Reloaded, yeah. And then when I saw the movie, I first was just wowed by being at one of the first day screenings, but then when I watched it again, I'm like, oh, this looks like PlayStation 2 graphics here. Like, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yep.
Kind of thing, But a movie like this is true wow. Before CGI kind of took over everything.
Yep.
And I mean, this is a matter of 2 years between the Matrix sequel and this, and just, thank God they would give somebody like Henry the carte blanche to actually make something that's artistically true to his style, and trust the whole filmmaking process on that.
Yep. Very much so. So we're ready to break down Monkeybone. Like actually go into the plot. I know 25 minutes in.
Let's talk
Ready
about Brendan Fraser's
Okay,
boner.
I don't think anybody's ready for this.
You know, you ready for this?
It's
All right, so
it's pretty wild.
This movie opens up with a cartoon of all things. And I want to know your thoughts on this. So the cartoon is drawn in this really like late 90s Ren and Stimpy style is what I kind of call it. It's got that kind of vibe to it. And it is our main character, Stu, talking about how he first got his Monkeybone, how Monkeybone was born. And at the time that I saw this, when I was a kid, this was 2001, the description is that Monkeybone was born out of watching his teacher's arm fat, flab in the breeze, and that gave him a boner. And so, in essence, Monkeybone is a boner.
We don't want to kink shame, right?
I don't kink shame anyone.
Okay.
Not at all.
Hey, so just to be clear,
whatever. Yeah, I will say that
whatever floats your
as long as
Monkeybone.
it's legal.
Yeah,
no
as
one's
long as
getting hurt.
everybody's over 18 and consenting,
There you go.
you do you.
You do you. But yes, Monkeybone, and I didn't know this at the time when I saw this. I did not make the connection that Monkeybone is basically Stu's erection. It's his boner.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Okay,
I was
gonna say, was this just like a girl thing? Because I was getting vibes that it was kind of weird, and I felt weird about it when I first watched it, and I'm like, why am I feeling weird about this? But nobody overtly. And let me just say also, I don't remember a majority of the crucial plot points in the real world. Went over my head. I did not remember at all.
well, just to point out too, this is totally an homage to, again, the underground comics of the 70s, like Fritz the Cat.
Yep.
They were clearly trying to be how weird and bizarre can we be, and sexual and adult themed, what have you. So they went what if somebody was really attracted to the bingo wing, which, if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's when you have fat covered tricep muscles that are also atrophied, and you go bingo, and they jiggle.
I did not know that was actually a term.
I'm learning a lot of things that I'm not sure I wanted to know. I don't.
Bingo wing.
Thank you.
That's what some people call the bingo wing. Yeah. Old ladies doing bingo. Yeah. And it's okay, what's the weirdest thing we can have him get a hard on over, and be really adult and really risque? That's the weirdest thing that we can think of, and we can, animate it. And Brian, you're right. The animation doesn't seem like Fritz the Cat or American Splendor or something. Yeah, it does have that kind of
say Rocko's Modern Life or Ren and Stimpy, something that's a little bit taboo. And as a kid, it's you don't know why it is, but there's a vibe that at least if you're sensitive, you pick up on.
Well, I mean, it pretty much hit me over the head the minute that it's there for, if you go back and watch this movie. And Anastasia, you're probably going to pop in a DVD later and try to freeze frame this.
But
but there is
watching. This is what I'm going to bet you.
We are not sponsored by Monkey.
We're not.
No, but I think we should be. Have you checked this out? Look at this. Look at this
some good discard there.
If Henry Selick wants to sponsor us or the studio that released it, go right ahead.
Well, what I was going to say
about this all day and night. Or at least I will.
Yeah. What I was going to say is there is a frame or two where you can see an animated bulge in Stu's pants in the cartoon. So it's there for 2 or 3 frames, but then it cuts away.
I don't want to know why you know this, but I guess
because I am a film critic, so I am looking at this movie through a sieve.
You're a professional.
Yeah, sure.
Annie, Brian and I do not miss a boner. We don't.
No, I don't miss a boner joke at all.
I mean,
ever.
You can't be a bonehead, a bonerhead. You can't be a boner without checking that out.
No. But this cartoon is not just on there for any reason. It's on there in front of an audience because Stu is making the premiere of his cartoon, Monkeybone. It's going to be on Comedy Network.
The Comedy Network.
The Comedy Network.
Let's make sure we adjust that name.
Yes, the Comedy Network. And it's in front of all of the early investors and people making the show, and they're all for it. And Stu is not that guy. He is not a guy who wants to make Monkeybone anything commercial. He's very much a pure artist in that sense, and he's joined by his lovely girlfriend Julie, played by someone that you know, Anastasia, right? So it's somebody you know.
I might know her. Yeah.
You might know her.
Bridgette Fonda.
Yep. That's actually how she likes.
Bridgette Fonda.
That's right.
That's what I call her.
Oh, you really do call her Bridgette Fonda?
Nope. I think I would probably just like end up curling up and crying and rolling away.
Yes, but Bridgette Fonda plays Julie, and as I said, Anastasia, that's your sister-in-law, right?
That's my big sissy.
Your big sister. Which is, it's very, very weird. Like it's like one of those like, oh, it's weird for us normies here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I guess.
We're just some middle-aged, like, fat dudes with high blood pressure from Pittsburgh, you know? Like,
We put fries on everything. That's what we do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, seriously, that is a real thing. That is the thing that
I
Pittsburgh
feel
people
like
do.
I live on French fries, so
Oh, well, then you would love it here.
done.
Yeah, but Julie's all excited for Stu and what this means for him, but Stu really is like not into this. He wants to leave, but what ends up happening is that him leaving means that his agent, played by one of the scummiest looking scum agents ever, and Dave Foley, in a role that honestly I think he wishes he wasn't in at all, especially the last part of this movie where he literally goes streaking with a purple face.
He
He's not a butt
actually
stunt.
really did that, though.
Oh, I know, he really
Yeah.
did. I didn't think he body doubled that. Anyway, Dave Foley's in the movie, and he loads up Stu's car with an unusual amount of Monkeybone shit. Like I don't know. I don't get why he was loaded up with inflatable raft
Or normal amount. I mean, has anybody ever done a convention? Like, you bring a
I
lot of
have.
shit
Here's the thing. I have
to
gone
not
to
sell, and then you have to go home with it. And it's a
True.
sad drive home.
True, but here's the thing though. That would not be Stu's deal. That wouldn't be him. He's the creative, right? Like that would be something that Dave Foley would have to do. Because he's the guy behind the whole stuff, you know?
See, but maybe we're trying to humble him and say, hey, actually, you do like money and you want to do this deal. And
that's true.
like get on the boat, you know, like get on this party. We're doing it. So just accept it.
But does that also include an inflatable raft that ends up killing him?
Apparently so.
and this is so like, you know, this movie came out in 2001, but this is totally like that 90s vibe of like,
Oh yeah.
I'm not selling out, bro. Like my art is too like crucial to who I am.
It's a little bit of
bro.
Gen X in there.
Yeah,
A little bit.
yeah, that
But-
Gen X energy.
Isn't it so beautiful to like watch that and then now thinking everybody just wants to like eagerly sell out? Like we'll happily sell out. Right?
When
I
there's
don't
no
know.
money, we want money. That's what it works.
I kind of miss when artists were like a little bit more picky.
Oh,
Yeah.
Anastasia,
And now they're like, okay, let me sell you this tea.
well, Anastasia, let me pause you right now where Brian and I do a commercial for well,
We haven't done one of those.
Manscaped.
We haven't done those anymore. We're not sponsored by them.
We were
anymore.
sponsored by
We
Manscaped
were
for a
sponsored
while.
briefly
Yeah.
for them.
Okay,
For a while.
I'm sorry. I don't see any back end to this episode, so
It's cool.
You know.
It's cool. They're yeah. It was a thing, and we tried it out, and it worked out great. And I mean, hey, I had nothing against Manscaped at all. But
Manscaped.
Manscaped.
As a matter of
What-
fact, Manscaped is my father.
Fair enough. Well, as I mentioned earlier, an inflatable Monkeybone raft is put into Stu's car, and apparently it self-inflates, which I've never seen any raft ever do. Have you seen that?
I don't know if you're looking at me, but it
yeah,
doesn't.
I'm
it doesn't self-inflate. He hooks it on his thumb,
Yeah.
and there's a ring, and he pulls it.
Right, but like it's attached to like have you ever seen a raft like that
Well,
that
I
has
don't.
an inflator in it? Because I've never
I
seen that.
I know it looks like I do a lot of rafting,
Well, I don't
but I
know.
don't. So I don't know. But
Okay.
apparently, also on the director's
Ah.
commentary, this actually happened to some like clown on PCH out here in California, where his like uh some kind of what do you call those things?
Like balloon animals?
Like balloon thing.
Like a
Like,
bounce house?
yeah, well, it opened in his car and he had like an accident or something. So this actually happened to somebody, but not beforehand. It happened after the film was
Oh,
released. But isn't
okay.
that weird?
That is insane. That is insane. I mean, it makes sense with the bounce house just because like they do have inflators, but like this was just like a raft that they threw in there. But anyway, it ends up inflating and it causes Stu's foot to kind of hit on the gas pedal while he's in reverse, and the
Of
car
course.
the car like rams backwards and ends up crashing into something. Now, this is a point of contention with this movie because if you had watched the trailer for Monkeybone, you would see that Stu gets into a coma for another means. Like it's not the car accident, right? Because a lot of people have pointed out to and said like, oh, well, why is Bridgette Fonda okay? And it's like, we have to understand she's okay because they cut out a portion of this. What actually happens if you look at the deleted scene is that Stu and Bridgette are okay from the car accident, right? They get out, they're fine. And Stu decides that he's going to use a payphone to try and call for help, right? And his agent instead is like, I'm going to go call the press instead of actually like, call like 911. And while Stu is in the telephone booth, one of the pipes that his car is smacked into falls and hits him. Like that's the thing that happens that actually causes the accident. But we don't see that, and that's one of the things, the many things that were cut from the movie. Whether or not I agree with that, I actually think that should have been in there because it leaves a very big hole and a question for me as an audience member of like, why is Bridgette Fonda okay?
It reminds me of like the opening of the show House, where
Mhm.
it's like they lead you to believe, oh, this is the person that's going to get sick. They're going to get sick. And then it's like the person in the background just like dumps her ass and pukes. And it's like, oh, you gave us a little M. Night Shyamalan twist. So, yeah, I think that would have helped as
It would have
well.
been fun.
Yeah.
Anastasia, what do you think? Do you prefer the car accident or do you prefer the hit in the head by a pole in a telephone booth?
Well, I saw the deleted scene obviously, and so I thought that the version that I saw was a little slow, but it might not have been like cut.
It could have been tightened up.
You know what I mean? So like I don't know if there was a version where like it was a little faster paced because it was kind of like I don't know, it was a little bit slow of him getting out and then him talking to Bridgette and then like she's like, "Oh, there's a telephone pole," and it's like, "How do you like?"
Well, even Dave Foley is like,
there's like a telephone booth, and then it's just a little clunky for me.
Yeah,
So
even
like, I
Dave
can understand.
Foley is a little slow on that one too. Like he's like, "Oh, what happened? Oh, what was that? What happened here?" It's like, dude, I had a car accident.
So I can understand like why they cut that scene, but also it's kind of like a lot of this film is like I wish that we got to know more. Like I wish that we got to know like Bridgette and Brendan's like their relationship a bit more. I wish we got to know like her job a little bit more. Like I would have opened up with like him meeting her at her office or something like that rather than the cartoon, just to have that kind of like subplot going on.
Yeah.
Like there's little minor things that would have like helped for me as a viewer because like I said, like I don't remember any of like what she works at a sleep institute and she's making nightmare juice. Like what is happening?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the biggest problems with the movie is just that, at least for me, there's a lot of things that are thrown in there that you're just like, at no point in the movie previously are we given any reason why that's there. It's just like, oh yes, well Julie works at the Sleep Institute, and oh yes, well Julie has the nightmare juice, and oh yes, Monkeybone has been betray Stu for this, and oh yeah, there's all the historical characters who were like dark and brooding, like yeah, they actually were taken over by their own figments of their imagination. So like a lot of things are in there. You're just like, you can't just throw that in and then just walk away.
But
Like, there has to
apparently
be an
you
explanation.
can.
Yeah.
Oh, Brian, I remember in the movie where somebody stepped in the Sleep Institute and said, "You shut the million of those things yet?" No. No, sir. Shove them all. We're taking them out a whole new door.
Well, I mean, you bring up a very good point that I'm going to wait to get into because I've got some thoughts about the writer of this movie. Okay.
I'm sorry. Did I jump ahead on your
You
notes?
did
I'm
jump
sorry.
ahead on
I'm sorry.
me.
I'm sorry.
Hold
I'm
up
sorry,
on
buddy.
it. Hold up. No, it's all right. It's all right. So anyway, moving along with this movie. Stu gets knocked the fuck out. He ends up in a coma. He ends up going. He's not dead. Like I said, he died. He's not dead. He's in a coma, and he ends up going to downtown, which, as we mentioned earlier, is the crown jewel of this whole film. It's the crown jewel of the whole movie.
Can we just like quickly sidebar and talk about how wonderful that moment is of him dipping down into like downtown and everything?
Oh, the transition from him like going from the real world. Oh, I love it.
It's so great. And I'm like, sometimes I'm thinking like, okay, where did all of these millions of dollars go? And I'm like, it's right there.
Right there.
It's right there. That's what happens when you give artists money.
Well, what's
do
crazy
It's like when you melt into a marshmallow. Yeah.
Well, I
No,
mean,
it's so
Anastasia,
wonderful.
what's crazy is that this was not crazy expensive. Like, even though like this has a lot of effects in it, it was $75 million. That's how much this movie was to make.
Compared to
like
today's
compared to
$300 million
yeah,
movies.
that's what I'm saying. Is like, even though this movie has a crap ton of practical effects, even though it has some amazing CGI for the time, it was not a crazy expensive movie by comparison to other films.
And I can wrap my head around that budget. It's when you see like Indiana Jones 5 had a $300 million budget. I'm like, where did that money go?
Where was that?
Yeah.
It was to go to all of those locations, John. That's what it was for.
That went to casting.
Nah.
Harrison Ford needed $40 million himself.
Harrison Ford needed that. Yeah.
Worth it, right?
Is it? All I'm trying to say is that Harrison Ford wants to kill off all of his characters, and he's going to cash in while he kills off all of his characters.
You let him do. He is a beautiful man. You let him do what he wants.
Oh, I'm not saying he is an attractive man, but the man wants to kill off his characters in the most, expensive way possible. But yeah, anyway, getting back to Monkeybone. Yes, they end up in downtown, and as we talked about earlier, this aspect here of the movie is what I love the most about it. It is that it is so bizarro and crazy. Like, as he's moving through this, you see like truly nightmarish creatures. Like, I could imagine if I showed this movie to my daughter, she would be freaked the fuck out by like the not necessarily all the characters, but mostly the pig who is selling barbecue. Like the giant pig with bulging eyes that is selling barbecue.
Brian, can I like
that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Can I like not call you out, but just
you can call me out.
Like maybe give flowers to you. I remember that I saw a short that you did in undergrad.
Okay.
At RMU, where it was about you almost being haunted by all of your artistic creations.
Yes.
Including the main villain being Scribbles, from when you were
when
like
did
2 or 3.
That? Did I show you that?
I think you posted it online or something because I saw it and I was like, and it made me think of you while watching this. I'm like, oh my God, this is like what Brian created.
Anastasia's gonna have to see the movie now.
Okay, I feel. Can I just say that I feel very left out right now?
I'm so sorry,
And
Anastasia.
I feel like I should have been sent this link so I could.
I did not know John was going to go that far. I did not know that. I will send you the link after the show.
That feels
and
like
you can watch
a
it.
low blow, and I don't really appreciate it right now because we're talking about Monkeybone, and I thought we were boners. I thought we were all boners.
We are boners, Annie.
Anastasia,
together.
we are boners united.
I thought we were boners together.
Annie, I have a boner for you. No, that doesn't sound.
No, that
right.
doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound
no,
right.
But here's the thing you need to know. Like, I took my undergrad to like actually like learn and grow. Like, but Brian was very much a natural from the beginning. So like, I watched this.
You're
film
trying to
and
give
I was
me
like,
a big head right now, John.
No.
Come on,
I'm
dude.
being fucking honest. I don't try to. I don't. Give anybody undeserved flowers, but like, no, but this is really, really good. And I'm like, God, I wish I had created this in undergrad. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. So
I will. Here's the thing. I will post. Not only Anastasia will I share the video with you, but in the description of this episode for all to see, you can all watch my very rough attempt at trying to do a Henry Selick thing. I wasn't trying to do that. Like, I'll be the first to say that when I made that, I was like, it would be kind of cool if I like all the drawings and shit like I made. Like, it would be cool if they all were there. I wasn't thinking necessarily Monkeybone, but I was like, it'd be kind of cool. Like, what would you do if your character interacted with those people? But anyway,
Okay,
I really believe
5 out of 5. It gets me a
5 out of
monkey
5.
bone, Brian.
There you go.
Well, this is official, so I'm gonna be pissed, and also I'm a very vengeful person.
Please don't be vengeful towards me.
Oh,
I will share it with you after.
Anastasia,
I mean,
share it on your social media.
Oh my
actually,
God.
if you like it.
Yes, share it on your social medias.
I always share and I support everybody. So don't threaten me with a fun time. Is what
I will
I'm
make
trying to
sure.
tell all of you guys.
I will make sure that it is shared with you after the show. I didn't know John was going to go there, but yes, downtown is pretty much a cavalcade of bizarros, and I love it. I'm there for it. Like I was like, oh my God, this is so great. The giant Cyclops guy, my favorite. I'm dead serious. Like
So
my
good.
favorite. When he's like, "Hey, it's me, your bedtime buddy," I'm like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, what the fuck?
Thank you.
Well, can I ask you guys something? Like, to me, this is absolutely gorgeous. I love the visuals. I love the lighting. I love the natural effects, the digital effects, the stop motion effects, everything about it. The color scheme, what have you. Like, to me,
Yes.
I'm like, this is just absolutely gorgeous. But can you see how some people could be, because the movie's thrown out there to everyone in America, could be turned off by the color scheme or the art direction or the stop motion? Like, some people would see and go, ew, I don't like this. This is kind of ugly, in a way that we find it beautiful.
Anastasia, you want?
No, I could not.
I was gonna say.
No, I could not. But also, I don't suffer fools, so
You don't suffer fools lightly. All right.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't, just because that you could use that against any stylized film. You know what I mean? Like, you could say that the movie Poor Things is not everyone's cup of tea. You could say that The Matrix is not everyone's cup of tea because of how it is stylized. You could say that about just about everything. Now, I think that if you have an interest in that sort of thing, like, obviously, Anastasia, I know you definitely do, and I know I definitely do, and John, I know you do too. Like, you might find those sort of things interesting, but I don't think a movie has to be for everyone. I don't think that's what they're supposed to be.
Okay, you just hit the nail on the head, or whatever that saying is, because
I hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Yes. And that's the thing that I feel, okay, don't get me started, because
please, this is the podcast.
I want to continue to work
Please.
in film. But I feel like that's where the suits don't understand, the people like in control of the money. It's like, not everybody has to be a fan of this film, but there is a subculture there, that this is hitting. And Monkeybone, for me, it hit a lot of what I love about like Henry Selick, and it's those textures, it's those like gloomy colors, it's this kind of a dark fairy tale, you know, that we're diving into. It's obviously stop motion versus like, I mean, like there's like VFX and CGI and stuff, but there's an interesting marriage in Monkeybone versus other films that he's done.
Yeah.
You know, where some stuff kind of works, where it's seamless, and then there's stuff that doesn't work for me, like Mike Starr's Mask.
You don't like his bull character thing?
Well, I love the character, and I have like a funny little silly story about him. But I kind of would have loved to see it as a practical, because there was a practical mask.
Yeah.
And so I would have liked to see what that was alone.
They made it like they did a stylized Van Gogh type face to him.
Yeah, I mean, it was a mask, and it was that design, and then they I guess they scanned it and they did a VFX version, which is great, you know.
Yeah.
But that effect, for some reason, I feel like sometimes like lighting is funny on certain like VFX, like early, you know. I feel like they didn't have it right. A little, it stands out a little bit. You know what I mean?
Well, I can speak to that. So like, because I teach VFX, and it's one of those things that back then the lighting was all done manually. You didn't really have necessarily, I mean, you still had a little bit of it, but you had not yet really mastered the things like HDR lighting. That was not a thing at the time. Image-based lighting was still relatively new. And like nowadays, like I was literally teaching my students this a couple weeks ago, you can use a 360 camera and basically capture the scene in 360 degrees and then take that into software and then use the imagery from that 360 camera to light your 3D objects. Now, back in 2000, 2001, they didn't have that. So, and it made it very manual, a very manual process and very difficult to get down right. And that's why a lot of that early CGI doesn't look nearly as good. This movie's not as bad as some others that I have seen. Like even The Mummy, even though The Mummy's good in most parts, if you really look at the CGI nowadays, you're like,
completely. Oh. No, I see that completely. And it's interesting to see like when you're looking at technology and how fast it evolves and the VFX versus like the stop motion.
Yep.
And how like those, like if you see how those age, it's just interesting as a fan, you know.
Oh, well, stop motion always holds up better than the CGI does.
I didn't want to say it because
no, I'll say it. Especially if Henry Selick's listening. Your stop motion holds up 1,000 times better than any CGI from back in the day.
Well, let me ask you guys this: like in terms of, you know, art direction and color correction and post production, there is one film that I turn to that I can't respect in any way, shape, or form, and it's outside of, for this argument, the sexism that goes into it, is Sucker Punch. I think that film is it is color graded to look like barf the entire time, and I'm just like, I can't get behind this. Like, I know that you are color grading this so many ways in post production to get your effect, but I'm like, your effect is barf. I just see half naked young girls in barf.
Naked young girls in barf. If we ever do Sucker Punch, John, that's gonna have to be the name of the episode. Like, half naked young girls in barf.
I think, but I agree with you. You got a winner there.
That's a winner there.
Well, Brian and I had a professor. I'll remain him nameless. That said that he realized that his fiance and him at the time could just watch the movie on mute and get the same effect. It's all about visuals. Yeah,
it's true. It's true. But, you know, after moving on from, you know, just kind of this amazing cacophony of visuals in downtown, Stu meets the real Monkeybone, his own figment. And Monkeybone is voiced by, I didn't know this until looking up it before the show, but John Tutoro. Yeah.
I know it.
I know you know it, but like I didn't know it. I was like, are you serious? Like,
Yeah, you wouldn't think,
like-
right?
like Carmine Falcone, he's the voice of Monkeybone.
Jesus from
You don't
Big
yeah.
Lebowski.
You don't mess with the
You
Jesus.
don't mess with the Jesus.
Nobody
Yeah.
does.
But yeah, Monkeybone's a lot. I don't mean to be rude, but we could almost have done with less Monkeybone. I know Monkeybone's
It's the name
whole
of
point.
the title.
Yeah, and
John.
the whole main character, even more than Brendan Fraser. But I'm like, I think of Ian Malcolm.
The Stu
from
movie
Jurassic
doesn't
Park.
roll off the tongue. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't roll off the tongue if you call
But
it.
I
the
think of
Stu
like
movie.
Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park, where it's like, okay, yeah. Less is better. Like I'm like, we could do a little less. With the
Okay, here's the thing, John. In the movie's defense, we only get John Tutoro as Monkeybone for a very small section of the movie because the rest of it is Brendan Fraser pretending to be John Tutoro pretending to be Monkeybone. Like, but
in
Which
that time,
that
which is
impression.
very interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, so which one don't I like more, or which
Yes.
one do I like more? Because I have like ideas about a different casting.
Oh my God, me too.
I'd love to hear yours. I mean, not
Well-
to side
Well,
line
I mean,
our
I will be the.
discussion, because we'll never
Well,
get through this movie.
I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I'll be the first to say, like one. I as much as I like Brendan Fraser as an actor, I think he's the wrong person for this movie and for this character. He is
Brian?
very much a chiseled looking man.
Uh-oh, are
I'm
we
And-
gonna
fighting?
disagree with you.
Are we fighting?
I think both Andy and I are going to disagree with you here. Okay.
Oh,
Brian,
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I cut you off. I'm rude again. But
Okay.
here's my thing.
Fucker. Okay, let's go.
Here's my thing. This guy is supposed to be some level of a Lothario. And if
Lothario?
he- yeah.
What is a Lothario?
Oh, like a handsome, suave devil, like like a young Sean Connery,
Okay,
Antonio
okay.
Banderas, and the other men that I have accidentally thought up while masturbating. No, what? Just kidding. But no, like very, very good-looking guys that when Monkeybone takes over, and he just turns into a super sexual creep, that people will accept it because he looks like Brendan Fraser, where if he looked like, kind of like a normal animating guy, sorry animation people, I'm not.
Don't.
Are
I love
you
animators, so don't be mean to
love
them.
animators. You all have varying levels of sexuality, but the
They're
stereotype.
they're the sexiest of the
Let's-
bunch.
Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
They are the most perverted and most sexual of all of them.
But
okay.
the stereotype of
Yeah, the ones I met.
Yeah.
but the stereotype of the animation dork, like if it had been that when he's like grinding up on women at the end when he's Monkeybone, doesn't quite work.
Here's the problem I have with that, though.
Okay.
I'll preface this with my own experience. I was in high school a goth kid. Okay, early 2000s goth kid. Okay, had trip jeans, wore black every day. That style hasn't completely gone away. Still wear black every day, but just have given up the trip jeans. Okay, so I also was an art kid. So I hung out in the art class all the time. And I not only was very much a Brendan Fraser as Stu Miley type character, okay, I was very much the weird kid in the art class, okay. I drew pictures like what Stu was drawing, his nightmare stuff. That was me. And a lot of us didn't look like Brendan Fraser, okay. That's just how it is. And it just really, for me at least, didn't suit well for his character he's playing. I'm not saying that Brendan Fraser can't be that, but I'm like, it's more of a turn if you've got the weirdo who doesn't look like Brendan Fraser, who maybe is like a skinny goth kid or some shit like that, and has a dark side to them. I'm not saying it has to look like Tim Burton, but somewhere along those lines.
I mean, why not?
Why not? But I'm just saying, like if you have kind of the underdog looking guy, and then that turn does happen where they are kind of injected with their id, in essence, right? Monkeybone's the id, right? So if they're injected with that, then yeah, they do make that change, and it is more of a visual change than what you get with this, because even towards the end of the movie, when Death like takes Monkeybone and mashes him back into Sue's head and says like, you were kind of vanilla, like that visual change would be more abrupt if, you know, he started off kind of like really a weaker type of character than what you get with this.
Yes. Okay. I don't want to
Okay.
blow
No,
anybody's minds,
please,
but
go
like
ahead.
my ideal casting would have been Steve Buscemi.
Yes, that is exactly what I'm talking about.
And I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry.
Well,
But
all
that
right,
would have been my ideal, because honestly, to me, you know, an okay looking Babe, like he's also Babe. Like Babe recognizes Babe.
Right.
And I would be like, hell yeah, sign me up. I want to watch more Steve Buscemi.
well, okay. A lot.
Or like Crispin Glover. Huh?
Yeah,
Huh?
a weirdo.
Huh?
You want a weird looking person.
That's what I want. I want the weirdo.
Okay. Well, first off.
Oh no,
Lots
I'm
of
like
them.
It's
revealing
fight time.
a lot, like way too much. I'm
No,
revealing
it's podcast.
way too much.
And I gotta say, first off, I think Brian's selling himself way too short.
I'm not so much.
And you know, he's talking about weird looking, but no, like Brian's a good looking cat.
I understand that, but I'm just
I
saying.
didn't want to say, but yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
I appreciate
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Thank you for that.
And maybe,
I am just
maybe
saying.
I'm just
Crispin
trying to
Glover,
be
'cause-
respectful of everybody.
We're all friends.
but not Steve Buscemi. Maybe Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover would be a good
Glover's is in a slightly attractive.
Can we talk about the mythical creatures that are there?
Oh, yes. So yes, there are mythical creatures in this movie.
No.
We already mentioned Hypno, God of Dreams, Medusa, not turning people into stone, which I was disappointed by.
Very.
On top of that, there is Death, if you want to count Death a mythical creature. Maybe a little bit.
Grim Reaper, does that
The
count?
Grim Reaper, yeah. Thomas Hayden Church, is he a mythical creature? Because he's in this too.
Sandman.
Sandman.
Stephen King.
Yeah, Stephen King's in this. Yeah. I mean, he's not a mythical creature.
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Okay, true. That's true. Depends on
Well,
who you ask.
here's a fun fact about this. Stephen King actually agreed originally to do a cameo for this movie, but timing didn't work out, what have you. Yeah, that's show business for you.
Yeah.
So they had a guy that like looked as close to him as possible in there. But here's another fun fact. The person that played Edgar Allan Poe is a fourth generation removed Edgar Allan Poe
Relative?
yeah.
Wow.
So
I thought I didn't get at the time when I watched it that the history's darkest, you know, persons were taken over by their you know, figments of their imaginations.
That's another crucial plot point that
Yeah.
just went way over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now that we talk about it, it makes sense. But when we're watching the film, it's like, okay.
It's like you might have wanted to spend a bit more time on that one. Just a little bit.
No, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because that feels like a main part that they've been doing this for like years.
Yeah.
And just sliding people in and out. And it's just a normal occurrence that happens. Like somebody who is like, I guess, causing nightmares ends up dying somehow or in a coma. Like, how often does this happen? And then they just like do a little switch with Cujo. Like, okay.
Yeah.
well, can I ask you guys this? Like, is this movie not a commentary? Like, not to get deeply philosophical here, but just how we live one life in public, but that the movie that is our life after we die, or that we try to exist in still in reality before he dies, like an open conversation into our unconscious that we can't understand or wrap our minds around. The whole basis of psychotherapy is that this world is a representation of our nightmares existence that we bury. I mean, I don't want to get too psychological, but I feel that's a huge point of this whole entire movie.
Well, there's a lot of depth to this that's never actually touched upon. Like you bring up the psychological aspects of it. I mean, there is a scene where Stu literally has emotional baggage.
Yeah.
You know, and what's inside the emotional baggage isn't what you would think. Like again, this was another deleted scene, but like they actually included real emotional baggage in there. Like, and I think the thing this movie is about is repressed sexuality. Yeah, that's what I think this is about. It's about repressed sexuality. I think the movie as a whole, if it had one subtext, it's that Stu represses his sexuality. That part of him. You know?
And that is absolutely prevalent, because I find it so fascinating that if I talk to people, like, if the conversation comes up to it, normally I'm not pushing it, but like, do you watch like pornography? They're like, no, of course I don't. I'm like, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. We
like,
all watch
everybody does
pornography, you know. But
cavemen drew it on the walls. For
right.
Sake. Okay,
we're all terrified of it. We're all terrified to admit it. Like, our sexuality seems like a negative. You know, we don't want to discuss it. You know, nobody will admit outside of their loved one, or maybe only themselves ever, their deepest, darkest, like, sexual secret. You know, because we're terrified of our own sexuality. We won't talk about it. And here's mine. It's Brian with chocolate syrup.
Jesus!
Oh no!
Christ.
Oh my no! Just kidding.
Yeah,
no,
please,
but yeah,
no,
no, but we won't talk about. You know, we don't like to talk about those things because we're insecure about them, because that's how we're built.
Yeah.
Well, I would say as the leading boner head.
Yeah, you're the leading boner head.
Go on,
group.
boner lady.
I would say that, yeah, I don't know if anybody in this film has ever had sex. So it's an interesting taboo with these characters, right? It's so weird because it's like, you feel like it's overtly sexual, but then when you watch it, it's like there's actually not that much going on. It's like very PG.
Do you think that though is a result of the cuts that came after it?
I mean, it's hard to say because Selick has said that there was like at least 15 minutes of stop motion animation or whatever that was cut from the film, and then I'm guessing even more of like the live action stuff, because just what we get from the deleted scenes on this great DVD, it's a lot.
Starring Bridgette Fonda.
That's right. You might have that one.
Yeah, that one, the one on the back of the cover.
I'll take her.
Yeah. Well, I'm even just saying, like let's talk, industry speak here. If you're trying to get money for a movie like this, and it is, about a anthropomorphic monkey that is, a puppet inside your brain, are you really going to then hit it with like, oh yes, this movie is about repressed sexuality and how all of us are dirty perverts and we keep all those dirty pervert thoughts in our nightmare world? You're not going to go to a meeting with a bunch of venture capitalists who are going to give you money for your weird monkey movie with that message. So I almost wonder if, like, even though, maybe those parts were cut, but was, Selick kind of forced to cut it in terms of content down to just get it to green light. You know what I mean?
If this was made today, I wonder how like strongly R-rated it would be in comparison to, you know what I mean?
I don't think it could be made today.
Well, one would hope that it would be. And that would be me.
I don't think it could be made simply for the fact that it's not a franchise. I mean, it's based off of a graphic novel.
It
but
could be.
it's,
It could be.
It could be.
I'm not saying that I want to make a Monkeybone 2, but I'm also saying
that you want to make.
Maybe I've already written a Monkeybone 2.
Release the Selick cut and make Monkeybone 2.
But all I'm trying to say is just that modern Hollywood, unfortunately, when it comes to, like, the whole idea of we need to make superhero movies or need to be based around, a pre-existing property, that's where I think it's different. And then on top of that, unfortunately, this movie did not perform very well at the time. So that's where I say, like, it would be difficult to be made now.
Well, also, I think that part of that problem was promotion and lack thereof.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
Honestly, if this was highly promoted, and I feel like Selick gets this a lot, like with he just had a stop motion. It's like Wendell in the Wild.
Yeah, I watched it. It was good.
Netflix, it was good, right? And
yeah.
I love a good Selick stop motion. I'm always, I wish that we got a new one every year. I know that that's not like
kind of difficult.
It's not doable, but that's what, like, in my little tiny heart, that's what I want. But anyways, it's like, if these things were promoted like a normal film, I feel like audiences would be flowing in. It's all about marketing. And if the audience doesn't know about it, and then also it's kind of like when you do your research on this film, they had so many different release dates. It's like, oh, we're going to release it here. Oh, never mind. And then they start over and they're like, okay, we're going to release it now. Just kidding, and then they just randomly release it. And it's only in theaters for a small amount of time. And then goes almost basically straight to, like, DVD.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the promotion of a movie, that is the either that's the thing that helps you or it's the kiss of death. Because I think that people didn't know how the hell to promote this movie. They were like, what do we sell it on? I think that's the thing, is that if you don't know how to sell the movie, then what do you do? Do you say that it's a Tim Burton-y type film? Do you say that it's, this weird, what do you pin it all on the whole Monkeybone character? Like I remember the ads for this movie when it came out, and it's very much not what you would get if you watch the movie. Like, they're two distinct different things.
No, because it's like, you think about this film and you're like, okay, who's the audience? It's like a mix between, like, 12-year-olds and, like, young adults. And it's like, what is happening?
I got a question for you. Do you think if they had made this movie R and geared it towards adults, do you think it would have done better or worse? John, do you got a point?
Well, I just was pointing. I wanted Anastasia to go first, but yes. They should have gone hard R, but just like soft R. And this movie, I think, would have done a lot better.
Anastasia, what about you?
Well, I think definitely an R would have been great, because I know that there is a lot of moments with, like, the Chris Kattan character where Selick wanted to have blood and just to have more effects, and he was stifled, which I think is insane, because it feels like now it's like, once I hear those notes, it's like, of course, that's kind of what I just automatically fill in for myself, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's like he was talking about, there's a moment where, like, blood splurts out in the operating room, but they wouldn't let him do it, so he decided to have like Bob Odenkirk and his like group in red, what do you call it, like
They were like
smocks?
scrubs.
Yeah, scrubs or smocks, whatever. And then there's another point where like the organs are dropping around, and there was supposed to be a moment where he runs over like a liver or something like that with a lawnmower, and
Yep.
Selick wanted it to be splattered with blood, and I was like, yes, that would have made it so great. But also I'm a huge like horror nerd, so it's like more blood the better for me.
Well, it's one of those things like I remember when Evil Dead 2 came out. One of the things with that film was that they literally were like, okay, well, you can't have all this blood. So Sam Raimi was like, all right, fine. I'm going to make it green and black and bright red, but not blood. And it's going to be all over the place. And it's like a giant middle finger to, the censors. But granted, that was a hard R movie. So it was able to get away with this. But I agree with your point. Like, I think there are moments where like they pulled back too much on things. And I think if they had the freedom to kind of go a bit further, maybe hit into some of these parts, like the sexuality side of things, the fact that it did need more gore. Like, I mean, there's a scene where, Jesus Christ, some guy's like spleen lands on a barbecue grill, and then the spleen is given to a kid as a hamburger, and I'm going like, that's gross. Like, that would be an R thing, but that's okay. Because it's still like the Ren and Stimpy era. Like, that's okay. Where gross is okay. Gross can be for kids. But blood and gore, no.
Yeah, this is a confusing time for ratings. Because, for example, Team America. No, I'm sorry. The South Park movie.
Bigger, longer, uncut.
Is... they got it was either this film or their next film, they got a PG-13 because somebody went, hey, cut them a break, this is going to be profitable. And they went, wait, what, because they had to go through absolute fucking nightmare before. No, I think it was supposed to be NC-17 for Team America, and they went, give him an R. Just like an inside guy went, yeah, just give him an R.
Yeah, that's because of the puppet sex. They did not like that.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, well, you're our inside buddy. Yeah, we'll give you. And they're like, this is the same shit we went through on the South Park movie, where they wanted to give us an NC-17 instead of an R, even though we're a cartoon. Like, just the absolute nonsense that you go through on the ratings board.
Yeah, it's bizarro. I did have a plot breakdown. I'm gonna try to get back to it.
We're never getting there.
We're gonna get through. I'm gonna speed through this. though. We alluded to this earlier, but basically, Monkeybone is in essence just trying to play Stu, and him along with Stu. They go to Hypno's party. And Hypno basically says, like, if you want to get out of here, you got to steal an exit pass from Death. And Death is played by Whoopi Goldberg, who I really think just needed a paycheck.
Well, this is around the time she did Theodore Rex.
Is this around the time she did Theodore Rex?
Ish. So, yeah. Within a decade. So it's like,
I don't
Whoopi needs some money.
Well, I don't hate her in this, but I'm also just like, the exploding head thing is cool.
Whoopi.
It's hard to hate Whoopi. If you watch The View, sometimes you don't like what she says about certain things. But I like her enough in this, but it's one of those things where it's like, I wish we had a bit more of her because she clearly is having fun. Like she knows what the game is, right? Like she knows what it is. But yeah, I like her character. I just wish we had more of it. I imagine that probably was part of the things that got cut. But her head explodes when she's angry about something, which I thought was kind of funny. I'm like, okay, why is it in there? But okay, it gets us a moment where we see Thomas Hayden Church bring out another head and then put it on her body. But yes, Monkeybone and Stu escape from the land of death. They get a exit pass, and yeah, Monkeybone fucks over Stu and uses that exit pass to get out and get to the real world, because the whole rush of all this is that Stu's sister, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because I thought this was like a part that should have had some explanation, but Stu's sister, I really think, wants to kill her brother badly. Like, did any of you guys get that Megan Mullally like really wants to kill Stu, like in a very like sinister way?
Annie, I'll let you go first.
Yes.
Well, Anastasia, your thoughts?
Yes, I did. I did get that vibe. It's very subtle, and you have to watch it in slow motion to pick up on these cues. But yes, she
Like, why does
seems
she want to
very
kill him?
devious. Well, I don't know, because his show just got greenlit for 6 episodes. I don't know.
I'm almost going like, is it a money thing? Is it a thing like, well, if we kill him off, then I'll get the Monkeybone money?
Okay, apparently there were more scenes with her, but they got nixed.
Of course.
So, that's where we meet these characters in the middle of their development. You know what I mean? And then we don't understand why they're so intense or like why they're like this, but we just have to figure it out on our own. Which is nice, not to be spoon-fed as an audience member,
True.
Well, let me ask you, Anastasia, do you have a sister?
I do.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I know Brian doesn't, but
I don't.
I do.
Yeah, my sister and I are very close, and we have actually talked about euthanasia.
Okay.
And that I don't. If I am in a coma and I'm never gonna come out of it, like, yes, I told her, pull the plug on me. So,
well, that's interesting. I have not had that conversation, but I hope she watches this podcast because then she'll get my wishes. No, I haven't had that, but I'm like, okay, make sure that my daughter is taken care,
Right.
make sure she's settled. But hopefully nothing happens.
Well, I mean, I understand the whole like conversation type thing, but it just seemed to me like she's giving Stu 3 months before she kills him.
Well,
like,
that's the MacGuffin in the movie.
I know
right?
it's the MacGuffin, but it's just like she really wants to kill him in an almost like borderline malicious way, where you're not even consulting like his girlfriend. Like, I know they're not married, but like she knew that he basically considered Julie, like, in essence,
like his
his
wife.
wife.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
yeah.
So like
she knew his
that
plans, right? Because she kind of like spoils it.
Yeah, and just felt like, yes, this is gonna be murdery time. Like,
Brian,
it just feels a little off.
The best case scenario is I'm going to say, like, oh, she is a vehicle for the necessary narrative structure of this film. At worst, I'm going to say she's yakety schmackety bee.
I mean, she does come off a little yakety schmackety bee. But all I'm saying is that is another subplot I would have liked to have explored.
It gives the ticking clock.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, the ticking clock is something that, like, is that literal definition. Something that is counting down as, and you feel the tension as our main characters are trying to solve something, but there is so many seconds to do it, and we have a ticking clock now on a human being.
Which would have been interesting if they focused more on that rather than like kind of going halfsies of that problem and then also like the nightmare problem, because it's like they're almost like, I feel like they almost cancel each other out and it's like, what's happening? It's just chaos.
Well, I feel they needed something to like wake him up,
Yes, we didn't
something to wake.
We haven't talked about the nightmare juice, so that is one thing again that was thrown in. That I'm just like, come on, man! Like, you got to give me something here, but it's thrown in that.
Yes, sir. Bringing it back.
They're giving us way too much, though, to be fair. Like, it's a lot. There's a lot of subplots that are happening. And you've got to, like, keep a scorecard of, like, all of these things, right?
Well,
I mean...
This goes back to what John just alluded to.
So subtly.
This story, this script was written by Sam Hamm. And you might be like, Brian, well, who is Sam Hamm? Well, Sam Hamm,
the greatest screenwriter of all time.
He wrote what John and I would call like our first boner for film. And that would have been 1989's Batman. Okay. Truthfully, John and I, we were basically born into cinema from that film. Mm-hmm. You know, like Bane was born in darkness. No, we were born in Batman. Okay.
Fair.
So like Sam Hamm wrote that. And if you've watched Batman 89 as many times as John and I have, where we can in essence, you know, quote the movie as it's playing. That's a true thing, by the way. There's a whole plot in Batman about gassing Gotham. And that kind of comes back here too, where I don't know if Sam Hamm just really likes the idea of gassing people with chemicals to make them crazy, but Jesus Christ, it sure as fuck looks like it.
I mean, again, don't threaten me with a fun time.
I won't threaten anyone with a fun time, but I'm just saying, like, so a lot of times you watch superhero movies and they're like, oh yes, laser in the sky is showing up. If it's Sam Hamm writing it, it's always going to be people are going to get fucking gassed by toxic chemicals. Because yes, the nightmare juice is a toxic chemical that everyone in downtown wants, especially Hypno, because they all live off of nightmares. And the whole deal that Monkeybone has is that if he goes to the real world, he's going to unleash all that nightmare juice because, lo and behold, Julie is apparently the inventor of nightmare juice. Another plot point we would have liked to have maybe known about.
Okay, so...
all they need is Sleep Batman.
Sleep Batman.
Come with a bat wing and get all the nightmare
Oh, he's down in
balloons.
Downtown. He's down in downtown, John.
out of the sleep world. But yeah.
Yeah, just along the corner. No, this is where I would say it would have been nice to open up with the film at some point to go visit Bridgette at work, and she can like hold up a syringe of nightmare juice and say, hey, remember when you had nightmares? And remember how I made you switch hands to draw? And how well that worked out? Remember?
Yes.
And then they can go to their screening later.
Yes, like
right?
maybe explain the nightmare juice thing instead of halfway through the movie.
Just a tiny bit, because a lot of okay, here's another point, and I don't mean to sidetrack, but it's like cool. Think about Bridgette's character, like what is she going through this whole movie? Like her boyfriend gets into a car accident, gets into a coma. His evil sister apparently wants to kill him.
He wants to fuck kill.
Right? Like super obvious. Like, let's just kill him. How about that? How about we just kill him? And then what else happens? Then she's got to like go home and she figures out he wants to propose. And then she's like, actually, let me just like shock him full of nightmare juice because that worked once. And then
Did it work once though?
I don't know. But then he comes back and he's like this total like pervy guy that she doesn't even recognize. And he's doing all of this crazy stuff. And then randomly a corpse comes after her and is like, hey, I'm actually your boyfriend.
Well, Annie, this is the 90s, okay? So like
technically the aughts gone.
Let me put
the aughts.
Let me put that hat on. Okay, yes.
Yeah. The women's like experiences and what they go through.
Tell me more about women's experiences.
You're on a slippery slope.
Tell me more about women.
Anastasia, let me tell you about women's menstruation in the 90s.
Let me tell you something. You're the only one who calls me Annie in the world.
Oh. Okay.
which
is
is
that
extra
is that a
special.
good thing?
I guess
Okay.
it's
Okay.
happening.
Yeah. No, but to play the obnoxious 90s person, like, yeah, the woman's perspective does not matter, and that's fucking
I
sad and
I
pathetic.
feel that now. I feel that now.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, not right in this moment. I just mean in life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, please not right in this
Not right
moment.
now. This feels
Yeah.
very good and supportive, and I'm talking to other boners.
Talking to other boners.
Boner Club?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry, I'm so inappropriate. You
No,
guys are
it's
so
cool.
great.
it's cool.
No,
We're
that's what
explicit
this
podcast.
is. We're
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Well, here's my thing. Anastasia, you brought up a very good point, and that is Bridget's character, I think, is woefully underused. I've seen Bridgette Fonda in a lot of really good movies. A lot of really good ones, and like Single White Female is one of my favorites from back in the day.
How about Lake Placid?
Lake
You're
Placid's
gonna talk
great.
about Lake Placid?
Well, Lake Placid's great. There's so many ones to mention, but she's not really used a whole lot in this. She doesn't really do a whole lot other than react to shit. You know what I mean?
Well, this is a woman's problem in film. It's just like to lead the male's character, like I would say, uh-oh. Did I lose you guys? I'm here.
No,
No,
you're
good.
good.
Okay,
You're
it's just
sure.
like went all white for me for a second.
No, you're good.
But I would say as a woman, a lot of like when I'm in film, a lot of my lines are, what? What did you say? Or like,
Yeah.
it's just like leading on, like it's to help like men's stories be told, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, I don't get it.
I feel like there could have been a lot more. Also, I feel like she's in a very different movie than a lot of people in this film. Like she is really, really sad. And
Well-
it makes me sad to see her so sad. Like she's distraught.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a second. There's a cutscene to Monkeybone like flashing his ass at the next scene,
Yeah.
Well, Anastasia, can I ask you this? Like, I want to ask a woman. The movie, at its core, is based on a guy, for better or worse, who slips into a nightmare of his own eccentricities and faults. And they always say when you're writing something, write what you know. So I'm assuming maybe Sam Hamm or any of the other writers who are uncredited on this movie are talking about things that they have experienced themselves. Is outside of that, the system should hire more women to write. Is there a fault in your mind of that? This is a bunch of male writers writing their own experience, and therefore, because they write what they know, that the women are secondary. I'm throwing this out not because I think this, but I'm just as a conversation starter.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a heavy loaded question. I mean, for this specific Monkeybone, obviously it's kind of more geared to the male experience.
Yeah.
So I have understanding for that. I just feel like because there's some scenes where it feels like it's patchwork to figure out the whole film. I feel like we could have like dived a little bit deeper into like Bridgette's character. Just the tiniest bit,
Yeah.
Instead of being like of service, like we could have made her like a more solid character to like play off of, because I feel like it's so interesting the way that this film flows. It's like we only get like Bridgette and Brendan's characters together for a really small amount of time if you think about it.
Yep.
Where it's really him. And so I would have liked to see that happen. Like I would have liked to see the switch happen a little bit later. Like even like 5 minutes I feel like would have helped in my like little minor like quibbles of the film.
Well,
you know?
it's one of the things like I immediately go back to like this reminds me a little bit of is a little bit like the movie Darkman, where Liam Neeson and Frances McDermott have a relationship in the very beginning, but we're given a little bit of time to see what that relationship actually is like before like Durant comes in and blows Liam Neeson's face to hell, and he becomes a completely different character. And then we only get that little bit then of seeing them together again, really together again at the very end. But if we didn't have that beginning portion, then the resolution at the end wouldn't hit as well. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about is we're not really given a whole lot on the relationship that Stu and Julie have. We're just given like, yeah, Stu doesn't like the limelight. He just wants to be with Julie. He wants to marry her, and that's it. And boom, now he's in this wacky, crazy land with all this other shit happening.
Well, yeah, and just to piggyback off that, I just want to say, because it's so wonderful that when we have a female guest, that we can actually, Brian and I can bounce off things on women. So thank you so much.
No,
for your female perspective.
And I
for
would
love
say,
of God, it's so needed.
I would say thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about my
You will always have the opportunity.
Female experience. I don't know.
Right.
Like, I mean, like, tomatoes, potatoes. This is just like in a perfect world what I would do if I was able to like look at the script before they started shooting. You know what I mean? But I feel like it's just, I don't want to, okay, I'm very biased on Bridgette, obviously, but it's like, I feel like she's doing a lot of like, she's grieving a lot. And I would have liked to see them as a couple a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just a little
because
bit more.
Because it makes those moments of grief hit.
Yeah, and it's interesting that she has her biggest moments with like Chris Kattan.
Yeah, who's literally unable to cry because he doesn't have tears.
He can't hold no water.
That whole thing, it reminds me of to throw a thing out to somebody else on YouTube, Ryan George, when he does his pitch meetings, and like they always go that they'll be super easy, barely an inconvenience. Like it reminds me of this movie, and I said it to my fiance when I was watching this, is like, is it going to be hard for her to believe that this basically dead man who's saying that that's her husband, that she can believe him? Actually, it's going to be super easy, barely an inconvenience. Okay.
Well, because the dog recognized, so that's how you know.
Well, the dog recognized,
if the dog recognizes, then it's a for sure thing. I mean, that's lady logic.
Well,
if you wanted to ask me,
he also
Ryan George.
He also used the right nickname for her.
Yeah.
Called her Doc. That was it.
And had the ring.
And had the ring.
No, it was the dog, but okay.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Just kidding. I agree.
So
I agree.
if Stu, Monkeybone in Stu's body, if he was like covered in, I don't know, dog food, that would be cool, right? Like it wouldn't even question.
No, I mean, of course, that's definitely him. I would say as a lady.
But Brian, if fake Stu with his broken neck was covered in dog food, I could not stop orgasming.
Well, fake Stu wouldn't be covered in. Well, he wouldn't be covered in dog food. Okay, Brendan Fraser wouldn't be covered. Well,
it depends on if we were talking about the R rating or.
Yes.
Anastasia, I'm so sorry that I wait for you to come on to the episodes where I get really stupidly disgusted.
I just assumed this is the normal.
This is
very
John.
Happy here. This is fine
John
because again, I'm a boner head.
Well,
I just want to classify who you're talking to.
Bonerhead.
As I say to you, as the only person that does,
yes, thank you.
I'm a boner with you, and that's why I feel comfortable.
You know what? Boner recognizes boner.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't be allowed
No,
to talk to
I'm-
anybody.
I am keeping all of this in. I am not cutting a
Please
single
don't.
thing.
Please don't.
No, I'm not. I'm not cutting a single thing.
See, this is gonna be easy edit for you.
Well, it's gonna be easy edit because I'm not gonna cut any of this out.
Oh no.
Oh shit. Well, getting back
So-
to the movie.
Are we just like 20 minutes into the movie at this point?
No, we're more like 3/4 of the way in.
Okay,
Okay,
if you say
we're
so.
about 3/4. 3/4. I'm gonna speed through this real quick. Okay.
Don't do
so,
it. Don't do
So
it.
I mean, we gotta because there's other things I want to talk about.
We got to make
One
sure
thing.
they listen.
We gotta make sure you listen. So, yes, Stu wakes up. He is inhabited by Monkeybone. He started acting like a real fucking asshole and crazy. He tries to do some sort of weird sexual thing with Julie that it looks like, hanging from bedposts and stuff. I didn't
It's
get
like
that
a-
one in the Kama
it's
Sutra.
It's like a monkey. He's like
Yeah.
like monkey
Yeah.
vibes, right?
I did find it funny that he was looking at monkey like National Geographic shit and was treating it like it was porn.
As
That
like,
part was funny.
yeah.
Well, that part
Yeah,
was funny.
we got some actual like George of the Jungle shit here.
There was some
which-
Georgia Jungle shit
did-
in there.
This is after he did George of the Jungle, right?
I don't think he had done it yet.
Oh well, maybe this is how he got hired. I don't know.
No, because
Yeah.
this is I
They
mean
saw
I might
this
be.
and they're like, "That's our George.
That's
He can
exactly what it
climb.
was.
That's
can
our
climb.
George."
Yeah. All right.
So,
What else,
so anyway, while all manner of chaos is going on in the real world, Stu is imprisoned with all of the different characters from history, like we had talked about. Steve King, of course, being one of them, and he, wants to. He's kind of in an all is lost moment. He wants to get out of the prison that Hypnos put him in, and who saves his ass but Rose McGowan dressed like a Catwoman.
Okay. Can I just admit something here?
You were
Or
turned on by
I-
Rose
I'm
McGowan
not-
as
Please.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yes,
Yeah, that I'm not comfortable with. Yes, you guys already predicted it.
you weren't
She-
alone.
She's very, very sexy in this movie, and look, I don't have any weird cat fetish.
This is post Jawbreakers
Oh.
Rose McGowan. So yeah,
But she is, yeah, she does something for me here.
I would agree with
and-
that.
and I
Yeah.
told my fiance this, like, to all disclosure, it's out there. But I'm like, I told her, I'm like, am I weird that her as a cat lady turns me on? It's something about the cat. I think, but like, my God,
It's
such
more
a beautiful lady.
The lady part.
it's the
Like,
lady
it's the-
part.
It's
Yeah.
the lady.
It's the
I
lady
hope so.
part.
I hope so.
I just want to be clear.
It's the lady part because if that's the case, John, you're never allowed at my house with all my cats that I have.
I have,
Never allowed.
I have
Back here,
one
Selena.
cat, so
I have 3.
Yeah.
So let's take it as like it was.
I'll
what
be
kind
like
of that is.
Alf. Just
You'll be
change
like
their
Alf.
cats or-
Oh jeez.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
just
no,
what a
I-
beautiful lady.
I honestly think that this movie needed more of Rose McGowan as Kitty.
I think so too.
Yeah, because we only get a little bit of her here and there. Like she's weirdly attracted to Stu, like and actually purrs at him at one point, which I'm like, that's very unusual. John, you probably were like, I'm gonna rewind and go back to that moment.
Oh,
Again and
yeah,
again?
I rewound and I hoped that she was gonna shit in a box so I could totally nut.
You know what? I guarantee you that because did Sam Hamm write Batman Returns?
No, yes, with
He did.
War-
Yeah, he did.
yeah,
did.
with
So-
like the pervert from Heathers.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there you go. That explains why the Catwoman in this movie is very attractive. It's because
Yeah.
Sam Hamm wrote it. So Sam Hamm likes sexy cat ladies, and he also likes gassing people with toxic chemicals.
I mean,
Got it.
Adds up.
It adds up. It adds up. But yes, after all of that, Stu is released. He kind of he gets out of prison because Kitty kills a rat guard
That
in a very disturbing way.
that somehow also mimics like Disney.
Oh yeah,
So like if you think about all of these symbolisms like selling out and all of these things, it adds up a lot.
a cat killing a giant anthropomorphic rat. I've never seen that at all.
Never.
But yes, it happens in the most vile, like violent way. Like like Rose McGowan's got glowing eyes and like ripped out his throat,
which is great. That's the direction that I would have loved to see this movie go. From
Yes.
here on out, I would have
100%.
loved to see that horror cut of everything going as crazy and high voltage as she was going, because that was almost like a classic horror film moment. Like that was like Bride of Frankenstein, like like it was so good.
Yeah.
And that's when I came.
That's when John paused the movie and said, I have to go to the bathroom. Yeah, that's his fiance. He's like, I have to go to the bathroom. Why have to go to the bathroom? I just have to go to the bathroom.
Don't fucking question me. I just gotta go to the bathroom. What's fucking wrong with you? I need to be left alone for a while.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
Give me 20 minutes no matter what weird noises.
What weird noises?
It's almost like we were talking about Monkeybone.
It's almost talking about Monkeybone.
I had my monkey bone.
He had a monkey bone for the cat lady.
What do I expect?
Yeah. Well, after that, Stu does escape. He tries to go to the land of death and steal an exit pass again, and we know he isn't successful because off screen that happens. Kind of an important thing we want to see is him try to steal an exit pass and then not. And Death makes him a deal, says like, okay, fine, I'll give you a body. You can go back to land of the living and basically tell your girlfriend you love her, and then give her ring for reasons. Love.
Well, I mean, it should be noted that apparently Death is like a hopeless romantic, so
yeah,
just randomly out of left field.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many things about this movie that I'm just like, if you took some fucking time and just explore those things, like, why is Death a hopeless romantic? Shouldn't there be a reason? Maybe she was in love with one of the Grim Reapers, or she was in like that sort of thing would be interesting. Plot needed.
No, yes. And you know what? After rewatching, like maybe on the 14th version, it was like, okay, so like it's a big, like she's in charge of some big train situation. Yeah. Like it's like a train station. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, no, it's not.
I would say this, like, in fairness, is this not in this man's unconscious?
I get that, but we're also saying that like that this is one location that anyone who's in a coma and anyone who has a dream is experiencing. Like, it's not just solely Stu's.
Because it's like it doesn't make sense. Because there's like other like humans there, right? Like there's that older man who gets a ticket to go, and he's like, why that old guy? Yeah. So it's like the rules in downtown, like it's like a hodgepodge of like crazy stuff. I don't know all the rules, but it just doesn't, as a blonde, it doesn't seem all the way put together.
Well, that's part of the problem. That's something that I have nothing but respect for Sam Hamm, but maybe while you're thinking of how you're writing the sexy cat lady and how you're going to gas everyone in the movie, maybe you also think about like the rules of this world, so that makes sense for us.
Yeah, because so when I was watching the commentary version, like Selick is talking about how there are like mythological creatures and also like old retired like TV spokesman people, like not logos, but in that area. And you were talking about the pig.
Pig character.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, why are they all together? Like, and then humans, random human people. So
there's no rules established.
It's so chaotic.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I could wrap my mind around, and it's only because I've researched Batman 89 to death, because it's just the movie
you
that
were
maybe
born in it.
Yeah, I was born in it. I wanted to be a movie maker by watching this movie. Was that the whole Batman crashing outside the church steeple and Joker climbing up it and all that was a last minute decision by the producers.
Yeah.
So, and it got to one point where Jack Nicholson said to Tim Burton, he's like, "What's my motivation for climbing these stairs?" And Tim Burton basically said, I don't have an answer for you. Just you're a great actor. Just climb the stairs," because he himself didn't know. And I wonder if this film fell under similar purviews of like, you need to do this, you need to adapt that, and it was like, well, how do I talk to my actors about this? You know,
I get that, but it's also such a thing that like when you do that so much, it's almost like death by 1,000 cuts. You know what I mean? Like Batman '89, you and I love that movie. You know, Anastasia, I know if you're a gigantic Batman fan too, but like,
well, yeah, come on,
I mean, okay,
come on,
but like there are clearly problems with that movie, but they're so minute in the grand scheme of that film as a whole that you really don't pay attention to it. So like, I don't pay attention to the whole steeple climbing thing. I'm just like, okay, well, the Joker is getting away because he needs to get, you know, on the chopper. Should the chopper just land? Absolutely, that's what it should do, but it's not going to. Okay, because it's Tim Burton. We gotta have Tim Burton. We gotta have a Gothic cathedral because why not? Okay, so I get that, but like with this movie, with Monkeybone, there's so many of those sort of moments where you're just like, why is this not explained? Why are we not focusing on the rules? Why is this character doing this? Why is this character doing that? Like there are moments like that where you're just like what? Like for instance, why does Monkeybone encompassing Stu's body say like in Monkeyland we stand on a table and shake hands with our butts? That's a scene in the movie. Like why is that there? It's never.
Well, because he's a minky.
I get that, but I'm just like it's never at all explained why that's there. So almost there is like, haha, see, weirdo moment. But there needs to be something to back it. You know what I mean? And I think that comes in the rules. It comes in the story. That comes in and you can have these amazing ideas and these amazing visuals, but there has to be connective story tissue to go with it.
But does there?
Yes, I think there has to be. I think there really does has to be. And I think that's because here's the thing. When you have the connective story tissue, that's where the investment in the film becomes more than just surface level. You know what I mean? Like, and don't get me wrong, like there are aspects of the movie that I absolutely love and invested in the visual side of things. But I think if you want a much deeper connection with the movie where it maybe does hit people on who maybe aren't just drawn by the Henry Selick visuals, that has to be in the story.
Yeah, well, apparently not.
Apparently not.
Also, I mean, if you watch any like Selick interviews, he talks about that the visual is more important than the story for him in his projects.
I disagree with that on so many levels.
No, I'm not saying that I agree.
I mean that, and every filmmaker goes that route. They go whatever route they like.
That is his deal, which makes sense for like when you see. And I think it's important, like, the partners that he chooses, you know, to help him, because he is coming from an animated background and he is very visual, you know, so that it all makes sense. But I'm not saying it's right. No.
I first of all, I'm not saying it's right or wrong either. I'm saying, like, for me, my opinion is that the story comes first because people will love visuals, but what they love more is to be lost in the story. And if you can lose them in the story, then you could show them anything. You could have anything.
Well, good luck with Monkeybone.
I know.
You're not going to get that.
I'm completely with you there, Brian. Like, the thing is, like, you do have filmmakers who come out of different mediums, you know. You could have a stop motion animation person like this that goes into feature film directing, an audio person becomes a director. A cinematographer becomes a director. I mean, that's literally the Addams Family movie.
Yeah.
He became the director, but then two different cinematographers became sick, and he had to become the cinematographer on top of being the director. Nearly gave him a heart attack. But
Mhm.
the thing is, if you're going to work in the medium of narrative storytelling, you have to abide by those rules and that importance. That it doesn't. The images are not more important than the story. The story is the story. The story is always the story. That is the most important thing. Like, if you want to work in abstract filmmaking, like go right ahead. Yeah, and then the story can eat shit. It doesn't matter. Like,
I disagree with that too. I think that even
Well-
abstract films have a story,
well,
even if it's
sure,
rudimentary
sure.
and subversive.
If we're speaking, in an abstract art sense, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying that, like, if you're working in the narrative three structure
Yeah.
story of Hollywood filmmaking, you still need to abide by that rule that the story is first and foremost.
So Stu is able to escape from the land of death, and he does it in a way where he ends up, inside of Chris Kattan's body. Okay, just kind of getting back on track here. Okay, I know it's a long episode, but it's worth it. Okay, and Chris Kattan is an Olympic gymnast who's got organs all over his body, and he really is just there to go and get to Bridgette Fonda, confess his love, and that's it. And then he discovers that there's really the whole plot of what Monkeybone's doing. So he's trying to stop Monkeybone too. Okay, because what Monkeybone in Stu's body wants to do is fill up a bunch of Monkeybone dolls with the nightmare juice and gas everybody at a museum event. Okay, again, Sam Hamm, he really loves gassing people, just loves doing it. And the whole movie basically like wraps up real quick because it's really just a chase. Like, it's really just a chase between the doctors led by Bob Odenkirk, trying to get Chris Kattan's organs, okay, and then Chris Kattan trying to get Monkeybone and Bridgette Fonda, okay, and then eventually fighting Monkeybone and hanging from a giant Monkeybone balloon that a cop shoots in the ass. Did you notice that part? Because I noticed that part.
Well, Brian, can I just comment on this real
There's
quick?
a lot to unpack there. Yes, please.
In terms of like comedy, in terms of understanding your world, shall we say, all of the insane comedy comes from the world that Brendan Fraser is inside of his coma, right?
Yes.
So that the real world, therefore, should be as practical as possible.
Mhm.
So for me, the idea of these surgical doctors chasing after a revived corpse
Zombie. It's a zombie.
Yeah, essentially a zombie with no problem with that, but they're just desperately chasing it around for profit for the organs that are dropping out. Like, I want a separation in my mind from the insanity of the unconscious world as compared to the reality. And when we give the reality this nonsensical chase, however funny it is, it just seems like we don't have a separation between this world as compared to the other world.
I would say that they could not go back to downtown for the back half of the movie. So they made the real world a little bit more like downtown. And this is also a problem that, and I mentioned this at the top of the episode, so if you listen all the way through, great job. This is the problem that Cool World had too, right? Back half of Cool World, we're not in Cool World anymore. We're in Las Vegas. Instead, we have weird shit happening in Las Vegas with Kim Basinger and Brad Pitt like glitching out, turning back into cartoon characters and trying to get a spike inside of a giant casino. Okay? Like, seriously, the movie Cool World is insane. I highly advise watching it. But it's the same sort of problem, right? how do you make the real world as interesting for the back half of a movie when you're not in the interesting world anymore? And this is what we got. It's this weirdo chase. Anastasia, you got any thoughts on the ending of this? Basically, like how it makes the reality kind of way too over the top.
Well, it's kind of interesting when they put these great like comedians in at the end, you
Yeah.
know? So it's like it reads that it's a very cartoony world, like what you were saying, but it also feels like a totally different film that I wish came earlier, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, because like I would have watched a film where Odenkirk was chasing Catan around town.
Oh,
Like it was
absolutely.
so great. And Catan just like embodying Fraser to a T, like the physicalities, while he has a broken neck. Like it's so insane to think about the pantomiming, all of the effort that Catan went into to sell this character, and apparently like worked on the flexibility of his neck. And then if you know his history, soon after he actually does like break his neck on a Saturday Night Live bit.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
yeah, and has issues stemming from that with like pain pill issues, all kinds of stuff. But so it's interesting to see how much like how he just jumped into this character, and he's such a physical comedian. So I don't know. I think it's a breath of like fresh air when you're like dealing with like this convoluted storyline, because you have so many subplots happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And then like where I also wish that was like the main plot, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you this. I think Chris Kattan does some of the best physical comedy ever
He's so
in
good.
this movie. In this movie especially, some of the best physical comedy at all. Like I mean, you could look at him and look at like Jim Carrey in The Mask. Like I look at those two and I'm like they're on par with each other in terms of physical comedy. You know, like how he flips his head around and like all of that shit. It's hilarious.
All of that, him walking and hitting his head on the gate, and him like knowing exactly, because he's like Stu, so he knows exactly where the extra key is. He doesn't have to like, it's all these like really hot character choices that I think is so delicious. And also I feel like I love when I see Chris Kattan like cast against type, because he is a really insane, like he's able to like with his SNL stuff, he's able to have like such a wide variety of comedy. And this is so,
it wasn't Mango.
It's so, yeah, it's not Mango, but it's so specific to being like Brendan. You know what I mean? Like being his soul.
Yeah.
And
no, well, I mean,
he totally reads that. Like
his mannerisms and voice are Brendan Fraser.
Yeah,
like they are.
I never questioned that's that character in Chris Kattan, if that makes sense. And I think that is to his credit as an actor, that is so like there's so much talent there. You know, and also I would say like when he does like a straight man kind of thing, like what was it? Was it House on Haunted Hill, where he like is in like a horror film?
Yes. So speaking of Chris Kattan, he, you know, him and Brendan Fraser, they fall to their death basically, like they're dead, not in coma, dead, and they're falling back to downtown, and they are stopped by death now in a giant Gundam. Okay, a mech suit. I say Gundam because there was a time that I was totally into anime and I totally got like Gundam Wing vibes out of this thing.
Okay, Brian, I have a question, and I don't mean to be obnoxious, but
are you going to call me a nerd? Because I am. I know
no, that. I mean no, but what are the rules of downtown? Because I feel like everybody is in a coma. Are they not? Are they not?
Well,
Because the
again,
old man goes back. And
this
so
goes back.
they both come down. Monkeybone and Stu come down, and it's like, are they both in a coma?
No, I think they're dead.
But
like-
why would they come back there if they're dead? I don't
Exactly.
get it.
My point is, this again goes back to the whole idea of rules within the film. If you don't have rules within the film, then shit like this happens. You know what I mean?
Then a blonde comes out and
No,
talks about rules
no.
not making sense.
No,
No.
it's called
It's
Blonde
okay.
comes up and points out the problems
It's
with the
okay.
story.
It's okay, guys. I'm blonde. It's okay. I can say that. I can say
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But you're not the problem. The movie's the,
The
problem.
movie's the problem. Sam Ham, I'm looking at you.
He can
But
do no wrong. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, not all of them are winners. But
I want to
Yes,
work
giant-
with these people. Can we stop?
I would love to.
Can we
I would
calm
love to
down
work.
a little bit?
This is the greatest movie I've ever seen, and these men have the biggest penises on earth.
This is the
I
wrong-
admire
the
them
wrong
so much.
vibe.
They are gods, and I am a peasant on earth.
Scale it back a little. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
The-
okay,
oh,
okay.
The views expressed by John Wolskoff do not represent Anastasia Elfman or Brian Coddington.
Please no. I'm just trying to work with Henry Selick. Like, please,
Henry-
please
All I
no.
have to ask, Henry Selick, leave a few inches for the rest of us. For God's sakes, man, you're a horse.
This is gonna be the craziest episode, and if people actually listen all the way through, I will be impressed. I will seriously be impressed.
Oh no.
Let me know in the comments or write a review if you've listened this far. I seriously will be impressed.
We love you.
There's
We
a
love you.
quiz. There's a quiz.
There's gonna be a
find
quiz.
out.
Right at the end. Right at the end. All right. So, wrapping this thing up. Mech Warrior Death pops in, grabs both Stu and Monkeybone, and mashes Monkeybone into Stu's head, and then kicks his ass back to reality, where he now finally can be normal and alive with Bridgette Fonda. As
And
one
only
does.
slight brain damage.
And only slight brain damage because your head's been deprived oxygen for at least a while. Like I'd say at least an hour or
The
two.
movie itself says like after 3 months, like day to day.
But he's dead
brain
though.
damage,
Like this
yeah.
man is dead. He's not in a coma. He's dead.
Yeah.
So there is that. But again, this is a movie where the rules are that you can be a zombie on the a corpse where your organs are falling out. So there's that. There's that. And that's really Monkeybone. Now I got just like really one or two follow-up questions because this is pushing as being one of our longest episodes that we've ever done. And I'm never gonna cut this fucking thing. I'm
Right,
not cutting
it's
this
beautiful.
damn thing. One question I have for you all, guys, to wrap this one up. Why do you think this movie did not land with critics? Why?
I'll go first because I want our guest to conclude.
Yeah.
I think that there is something to aesthetics, and I know people will say, "Well, John, they don't know that unless they buy a ticket." But I think there's something of watching a trailer and seeing the effects. Like, I think there's a lot of people who are turned off by certain artistic expressions. Like, if you go to an art museum, if you're not a completionist like me that wants to see everything, you're going to go, oh, I don't want to go to that wing or that wing, but I want to go to this wing and this wing to look at that type of art. And I think that maybe people saw the type of art direction that this movie went in, and they said, well, that's not for me. For better or worse, because you should broaden your horizons as a film going person, and I think that maybe a lot of people went, oh, that's just not my cup of tea before ever giving it a chance.
Anastasia, your thoughts? Why did this not land with critics?
Well, I don't trust critics, first of all.
as we are too critics. So yes,
Well,
I
I
understand.
mean, what are you gonna do? A lot of my favorite films, like if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, they're so far down, and I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like with Monkeybone specifically, Selick had a lot against him because he was trying to keep all of his people together. And so he's trying to find a project and he was trying to make it work. And there were moments where like he had other options, like I don't know if you know that like Ben Stiller was interested in playing it, like being part of the team, but he wanted to rewrite things. And then Selick was like very attached to the writer, and so he didn't want to go against. And so it's like I feel like Monkeybone would have been interesting as a Stiller like version, but also I don't know. I think it's so chaotic that I'm glad that like Selick stuck to his guns, But I think the main issue was that it like the studio didn't understand it in a way and then didn't promote it the way that it needed to be promoted, because like to be honest, like with audiences it needs to be promoted correctly or they're not going to get it.
True.
And also it's kind of like, I mean, I'm so against like test screening audiences because it's like you need to show them what art is. Like I don't want to trust anybody if I don't respect their art. So why would I have like Joe Schmo give me notes on my art? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like with Monkeybone, if it was promoted in the right way, the way that other like major films were, that it would have had like a bigger fighting chance. But also, I feel like it's like this cult classic and we need like a new 4K Blu-ray release with with more interviews, more deleted scenes, more I was talking about those 15 minutes of animation that were cut. Like I want to see all of this stuff, anything and everything. As an avid Selick fan, I want to see, And also, okay, not to make this too long, but I was telling you, Brian, that I was talking to one of the VFX artists, Peter Crossman. So I got connected to him through my friend Kevin Kuchever, who is an amazing VFX artist who did stuff on our film Bloody Bridget, and he's done like everything. He's done effects on like RoboCop, on Gremlins, on Beetlejuice, like anything and everything he's worked on. And so anyways, he knows Peter, and so he connected us today, and like right before Peter sent me so many like little tidbits of things on set. I don't know if you want to hear any of it.
Yeah, show again. Go, sure, it's like one or two. Sure.
Basically, he said that he was like on the phone with Henry Selick. Right, like I called him right before we got on this chat, and so he was saying that like Henry wants to do like a director's cut that's like more extravagant and more of like a David Lynch aesthetic in both like tone and like atmospheric for the movie, which is really interesting because it's like I don't know if I like would consider Monkeybone very David Lynch, but like maybe Henry Selick's like director's cut is.
Right.
I don't know.
That'd be interesting. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, hell yeah for me.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons why this movie didn't land with critics, I'm not necessarily talking about like not landing with like the general audience, but I think like critics especially, they're like the first ones who kind of set, unfortunately, the vibe that the audiences then go into, right? Like even if it's totally wrong, which oftentimes it is, they kind of set that vibe. But I think this didn't land with critics because, one, I don't think that this movie was made for them at all. I think it was made for weird kids. I think it was made for the same people who are into Ren Stimpy and Rocko's Modern Life and a lot of weird, like, just underground, like, comics and shit. But it's hard if you're going to make a movie for those people for it to land with, like, the masses and the gatekeepers for the masses. And I think that because of the fact, I'm going to harp on this again, and I'm again, I hope Sam Haim isn't listening to this episode because he's going to hate my fucking guts.
He probably is, so be good.
Okay.
He follows me on Twitter.
Okay, so I have a lot of respect for him.
He requests for interview.
Okay, I'm trying to be nice, but also critique at the same time, John.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're going to have a movie with bizarre, weird shit visuals, has to be a story to back it up.
You got to ground it.
You have to ground it in some capacity. That is the X factor there, because that is what is going to actually connect with the critics who then can help the movie land, is having those moments. Like, Anastasia, we have talked a lot about parts in this movie that we're like, man, it would be cool if we explored this thing and this thing and this thing. And that is part of the story. That is what is there. That's the connective tissue to the visuals. You have to have that solid. And it can't just be plot point 1 leads to plot point 2 leads to plot point 3. There has to be subtext in there and other things to ground these amazing visuals. And I wish that was there. And I think that's why it didn't land with the majority of critics.
Which is so interesting that you say, because I feel like a lot of this film had to be ultra planned.
Yeah.
Because of all of the stop motion and all of the, like, the early CGI stuff. And so for it to not have a cohesive story is interesting. But also, if you know your history about this film, it's like, it's kind of like Selick got taken over by, who was it, like Chris Columbus?
Well, Chris Columbus took over the movie and recut it to make it PG.
Yeah, which is interesting. But then you look at what we got, and it's almost like maybe Selick got his version anyways. I don't know.
I mean, I look at it in terms of, and this is where, again, like Henry Selick, if you're listening, put out a director's cut. Because I am curious to see, is that connective story tissue there? Was it actually filmed? You know, we've seen movies that have had director's cuts put out. You know, one of my ones I always go back to is Clive Barker's Nightbreed, the Cabal cut. A lot of people hated Nightbreed. I was not one of them. But when it came out, it didn't do really well. But then, you know, years later, like 20 some odd years later, Cabal cut comes out as a work print. And it fills in a lot of the gaps that those of us who, you know, carried the torch for this movie, but even were able to admit, like, yeah, there's some things in here that don't make any sense. It filled in those gaps. So I don't know. Is that the same thing with Monkeybone? If that's the case, I'd love to see it.
Well, also, Henry Selick, if you're listening, hire us. And you know what?
Hire Anastasia. Hire her.
Well, no, we can go to Anastasia's house and she'll let us couch surf.
Come on over.
And treat us delicious steak dinner.
Yeah.
Yes, that'll be my husband, Richard, because I'm a vegetarian and I can't cook.
Yes. Okay.
I know. Sorry.
Let's just do a delicious tofu dinner.
French fries.
French fries. Well, I think we have talked about Monkeybone to death at 2.5 hours.
You know, we're only into like
sweet Jesus. Is
One
that how long?
third of my notes, but okay.
Yeah, I know. No, we actually did. We were able to hit all the notes, believe it or not. We did hit the notes.
Not mine, but okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That'll be another episode. Don't worry.
Another episode on it. But
Monkeybone part down.
Just kind of wrap things up. Anastasia, are any cool new things happening with you? Any projects you want to mention? Any cool things that you're working on?
Any fun, cool things? Bloody Bridgette is still my horror film. Bloody Bridgette is still traveling and doing festivals, and then I'm also in the works. I don't remember if I told you guys before, but I'm doing my own kind of like horror hostess show
Oh, you didn't tell us that.
using my Bloody Bridgette character, and I'm gonna get people like behind the scenes kind of people from films, and I'm gonna talk about films, and it's kind of like an Elvira meets like Vampira meets like
You gotta be careful mixing those two.
The Crypt
Can't mix those two together. They suit each other.
Well, yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. The Crypt Keeper and like a little bit of Pee-wee's Playhouse, but like I want to do a callback to like the old like horror hostess vibe,
Nice.
and then talk about these weird films, including I'm probably going to talk about Monkeybone, but also talking to the like people behind the scenes who made the films like so magical, and then I'm gonna kill them, like rip out their heart and eat it.
Well, you're doing
As the
literally,
character.
you're doing literally what I exactly want to do as well, but
That
I don't
is
want
what
to step
John
on your
wanted to do.
toes. But like, yeah, if you want to hire me in any way, shape, or form, I am for sale.
And
While I'm trying to get my own show off the ground. So
oh,
yeah,
perfect. and then also I just convinced Brian Usna to like produce it with me, so I'm gonna be doing that.
Oh,
no
wow.
big whoop.
So
no big whoop.
and I'm gonna have him as a guest, and I'm gonna rip his heart out again. So it's gonna be
Awesome.
fun. So yes,
Awesome.
Well,
Awesome.
Annie, as only I call you, please rip my heart out. Please
anytime. Come
bring
to
me on in any way, shape, or form.
come to Hollywood, and I'll have you in my dungeon, and I'll rip your heart out.
Yes.
Is it going to be on YouTube, or is it going to be like on
the
like
streaming service?
You know
TV
what?
or
I've
streaming
got to
stuff?
figure it out. I feel like I've got to do like a proof of concept, and then I want to sell it to like a network or something like that. Because I feel like nobody's doing these kind of like actual horror like hostess things right now. You know,
They are on YouTube
Dear Lord.
to some degree.
I don't want to hear it. I'm the only one.
Okay.
Anastasia, you and I are on the same wavelength.
John is on the same
I've
wavelength
actually
with you.
talked to people on a certain streaming service. I'll just leave it blank here, where I've pitched that I want to be their Joe Bob Briggs. You know, like
I want to be like the
Yeah.
girl version, but also like more cartoony
I don't want to. I don't
and
want to
weird.
compete. I don't want to compete because I know you'll win.
It's
So hopefully I can find a.
I've got
okay.
boobs, right?
Yeah, it's because of that.
I knew it.
It's
I knew
that.
it. Finally, one time it works.
Well, no, yeah. You're young. You have boobs. I have love handles. It's just not going to work out.
But you know what you can do though? Collaborate.
Yeah, let's do it.
Collaborate.
Let's
You don't
do it.
compete. You collaborate.
Well,
There you go.
Annie, let's talk. Let's walk.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Where can people find out more about you, Anastasia, and where can they reach out and contact you and all that fun stuff?
Well, as you know, I'm on the Facebook under Anastasia Elfman. On Instagram, I'm under my stage name, so it's really confusing. It's Dahlia Demont. And then I have a website called AnastasiaElfman.com. And that's, YouTube, and I guess TikTok, if that's around still. I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows?
But
She's sorry, man. I'm just saying, like, you're being too bashful. If you Google Anastasia Elfman, you're gonna get all of these
You're gonna get all
these
of them.
sites. Yeah,
They all
Yeah.
pop up.
she's bigger than she's giving her credit.
She
for.
is. You are.
thank you. I do want to work with Henry Selick. If it
Yes,
wasn't
Henry Selick. Please
as
hire
a
Anastasia.
raging boner head.
Oh.
Oh
Awesome.
man,
I thought the boners stopped with us.
they never stop. I mean, boner recognizes boner. It's fine.
There you go.
You can cut this
There you
out.
go.
You can cut this out.
No, I'm not.
No,
I'm not
no,
cutting
no,
any
no.
of this shit out.
Please,
You
I'm
need-
gonna regret
No.
this tomorrow.
No.
You just tell Richard, some guy he's never heard of named John, said the boners stop with.
It's like, is that what you were
Whisper to
doing
him
for
in
3
bed.
hours? Oh.
He's with Brian. Oh wait,
It's
actually,
Damn it, Brian!
he called me and he was like, "I'm on my way home," and I'm like, "I'm still recording."
Oh, jeez.
Say, I got a boner with him.
Boner to pick with you, Rick. Sorry.
Well,
Okay, sorry.
I'm just because I don't want our episode to go too crazy long.
Enough sexual harassment.
John,
Yes.
John, where can they find you out on the internet?
Facebook, Instagram, and over on YouTube. I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet.
Just keep it short and sweet. Check out J Dub's Video Nasties. He's got some great stuff over there. You're gonna be putting out a new episode soon?
Oh, yeah. Men in Black. So Many Questions will be coming out soon. And wait, did Danny do the music for that?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Okay, so you better subscribe.
I was like, Men in
Anastasia.
Black. I was like,
Yeah. You gotta subscribe
now
to
I
that.
gotta watch. Now I gotta watch.
Yeah. Subscribe, follow, and comment.
Yeah, ditto. Best,
I follow you.
do you? I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm so bad.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you have loved this episode and you've listened and watched through the whole thing, you are a true super fan, and we appreciate you and we love you. So do me a favor, if you like this episode, share it with your friends. Also, you can go to cinemapsychoshow.com/follow, and you can follow us on your favorite podcast app of choice. We got all the buttons there. You just click one and boom, you can subscribe to us right there. And of course, if you're watching us here on YouTube, hey, do me a favor. See the little thing right there, the little subscribe button? Click the little subscribe button, hit the thumbs up for the like, and share this episode. And also comment. Let us know if you love this stuff. That really does help us out in the fucking algorithm. It shows this episode to more and more people, and really it comes down to you. So, again, thank you. And with it said, we will see you next time.
Oh no, the cat lady has struck my monkey bone.